Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Well, the National Football League is giving us plenty to talk about this Tuesday, aren't they? Welcome into First Take. Carrie Champion is out for the day. I'm Prim Saripapat, but fear not, the two usual suspects are here, Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, joining us from New York City. So, gentlemen, I assume we have plenty to talk about today, don't we, Skip?
Yes, we do.
Are you a suspect, Stephen A.?
Well, according to the NFL, anybody can be a suspect.
Yeah, that's true. Here we go.
Here we go indeed. So coming up on today's show, Steph Curry and the Warriors responded to even up the series against the Grizzlies. We will discuss that and what was the difference in Game 4. Also, NFL analysts Ryan Clark and Jarrett Bell from NFL Insiders will join us later to talk about the Deflategate, and that is where we begin today with the Deflategate. So how hard will the NFL come down on the New England Patriots was a question, and we now have our answer. The Patriots were hit with a $1 million fine, which is the largest in NFL history, by the way, and docked 2 draft picks, a first-round pick in 2016 and a fourth-round pick in 2017. Now, as for quarterback Tom Brady, he was hit with a 4-game suspension without pay. So, gentlemen, I want to get your reaction. What was your reaction to the punishment? Stephen A., let's go to you first.
Well, like I said, nobody takes joy from this. Tom Brady is obviously a future Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. He's a 4-time Super Bowl champion. So anytime you see somebody of his magnitude, particularly considering the image that he had in terms of how he conducts himself, what kind of ambassador he's been on behalf of the National Football League, which Roger Goodell himself has commended him for in years past, to see it come down to this, it hurts, to be quite honest with you. But the reality is that he deserved it. He deserved the 4 games. They can appeal all day long. It does not matter. He deserved it. And he deserved it primarily because I believe that Tom Brady put forth a lackluster effort in defending himself. Maybe because it was indefensible. Maybe because he was too arrogant to believe that, he was arrogant enough to believe that it doesn't matter what the situation is, that he can do what he wants to do. I don't know. All I know is that based on a Wells report, the investigation, and how it surmised that Tom Brady probably knew, those were his words, even though Troy Vincent, the executive VP in the National Football League, along with Roger Goodell, clearly believe it's far more than probable that Tom Brady knew something. They thought that 4 games was apropos. And I have to conclude that I believe that they are right in all of this. The person who was in a position to defend themselves most vociferously was Tom Brady. His daddy spoke up on his behalf. His agent spoke up on his behalf. Robert Kraft, the owner for the New England Patriots, who I still love dearly and consider to be first class all the way as far as I'm concerned, regardless of what this report says, they all came to the defense of Tom Brady. Tom Brady did a half-half job of coming to his own defense. And I think that when it's one thing when somebody's just trying to get into the incident itself, but it's another thing entirely when somebody questions, Skip, your truthfulness, your integrity, your character. You don't need days or weeks or months to respond to something like that. Tom Brady did a very, very poor job of coming to his own defense. And because of that, combined with the investigation, combined with what Troy Vincent concluded, and remember, I covered Troy Vincent when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. He is a man of incredible and tremendous integrity and character. I think for him to reach this conclusion and to give this kind of counsel to Roger Goodell in terms of his recommendation as to what the suspension should be, I'm not going to question it. As it pertains to the $1 million fine on the part of the Patriots, along with confiscation of first and fourth round picks in 2016, 2017, respectively. Initially, I was taken aback by that because I said the Wells report essentially said that Bill Belichick, his coaching staff, nor Robert Kraft, the owner, had any knowledge of what was taking place. According to the report, they didn't know. I don't want to go as far as to say they were exonerated, but I can go as far as to say that they found no evidence that would implicate or indict any of those respective parties. So initially, when I saw the $1 million fine along with the confiscation of the draft picks, I was taken aback. But then I remember Spygate. And I remember how Roger Goodell did the Patriots a huge favor by burning those tapes and making sure none of us ever saw what exactly they had done from a visual perspective. And he gave them a mulligan there. And this time he brought down the hammer. So it clearly is a cumulative effect and a cumulative judgment that Roger Goodell, Troy Vincent, and the NFL League office has exacted against the National Football League. And when you take that into consideration, it makes the penalty easier to stomach. It makes more sense. So I understand.
You know, Mr. Smith, I was going to go in a different direction with my opening soliloquy in answer to you, but I've had to scrap it because of the point you just made. I cannot connect your dots, your apple leading to an orange conclusion. So you're trying to tell me Tom Brady deserved it because he didn't publicly defend himself. Is that the conclusion you've reached? He deserved 4 games because he didn't publicly defend himself.
No, I'm saying to you that based on the investigation, both you and I concluded that we think he's lying. And as a result of that, the 4 games make sense. But I'm saying it's further justifiable in my mind because he did a poor job of defending himself. Okay, which is something we have talked about over the last several days.
Okay, I get it. But we have no idea how he defended himself in private to the investigators. All I know is that he apparently was defiant about how innocent he was. And that defiance might have contributed to more games of a suspension, to 3 going to 4 games. Okay? I get you there. We'll talk about how Brady's going to fight back in the next question. But I hear what you're saying. The day after the Wells report broke, I said right here sitting in this chair, I thought off what I'd read circumstantially that the league would go to 4 games, and the league went to 4. It's a PED-length suspension for a violation that this league considers PED-like. It's gaining an unfair advantage, obviously, by underinflating the football. So we agree there. And if Brady was defiant in his interviews with the investigators and he wasn't fully cooperative with the investigators, that led to Roger Goodell needing some new credibility and to sort of redefine his stature as the CEO of this league, flexing his muscles and lowering the boom on a good guy quarterback with 4 Super Bowl rings and up to this point, a spotless reputation. So I thought it was a little harsh, but I got it because it was predictable to me. Now, where we disagreed on this was, I thought Bill Belichick deserved an 8-game suspension because he's ultimately culpable as the CEO of the football operation of the New England Patriots. You said 0 games because the Wells report left him completely out, exonerated him, or at least gave him a complete pass because he was not held responsible for what they held Tom Brady responsible for. I said baloney to that because I believe he knew whatever Tom Brady did or didn't do, Bill Belichick signed off on. So my point was this. The shocker to me was that Roger Goodell and the guy you pointed out, Troy Vincent, really lowered the boom on Bill Belichick in ways I didn't see coming. This is way beyond an 8-game suspension for the head coach. They docked the Patriots a first-round pick in 2016 and even a 4th round, which is a pretty valuable pick, in 2017. That is aimed straight at the head coach. That has everything to do with the fact that the head coach did get busted, caught red-handed cheating in Spygate. And it harks back to the point in 2007 when Goodell made it clear to Bill Belichick, 0 tolerance from here on. This is a statement made against Belichick and also to a degree against the owner, Robert Kraft, who was also defiant, you remember, as he arrived at the Super Bowl. What did he say? I'm completely behind Tom Brady, and I believe every word he says. And if the NFL is proved wrong here, they owe us an apology, said Robert Kraft. So now Goodell is saying, well, watch this. Everybody thinks I'm buddy-buddy with Bob Kraft. Watch what I'm about to do to Bob Kraft. A first-round pick in 2016. That's not aimed at Tom Brady. Tom Brady will play at 38 years of age next year. 39, 40. Does he have a couple of more years left? So these draft picks aren't going to hurt Tom Brady. They're going to hurt Belichick if, in fact, he continues coaching, and certainly Bob Kraft if, as we all believe, he will continue to own the New England Patriots. So that's way beyond an 8-game suspension for the head coach. That's hitting you where you hurt the most. And that has a lot to do with Belichick's track record for bending and breaking rules and all the accusations levied against him back to the first 2 Super Bowls. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, let's cut to the chase. What's his name for the Atlanta Falcons? Skip Rich McKay. He was on. I think he was on the competition committee.
He was.
I think he had served on the competition committee for 21 years. But when they learned that folks for the Atlanta Falcons had, did something to manipulate the noise within the stadium, and they consider it obviously trying to gain a competitive advantage, they showed and explicitly stated that it wasn't proved he had any knowledge of what was going on. But they removed him from the competition committee. Okay? Why is that? Because, again, when you're an overseer, you're responsible. So what they're saying is that ignorance isn't bliss. In this case, it's indictable.
Yeah.
And it's not an excuse.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we're going to hold you culpable. So what I'm trying to say to you is that it's one thing for them to hold the Patriots culpable, meaning Bill Belichick and the like, because you are the boss. So that's entirely different than saying you had specific knowledge of Deflategate.
Well,
they didn't say that. The Wells investigation.
They're implying that.
Well, they're not implying it. They're implying that he's responsible whether he knew or not, because you're the guy in charge. We don't want to hear that you didn't know anything. We don't want to hear that, you know what, you got to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear, and you think that you're going to escape culpability. They're saying, well, maybe you'll know in the future once we bring this hammer down upon you, because we're not letting anybody get in the way with turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to what's going on under their stewardship. That's entirely different than saying you absolutely knew and you joined with Tom Brady in trying to gain a competitive advantage and deceive opponents and gain a competitive advantage. They're saying 2 different things to me about Tom Brady compared to what they're saying about Bill Belichick. They're accusing Bill Belichick of not being responsible. They're accusing the Patriots of not being responsible enough. They are accusing Tom Brady of cheating and lying. That's 2 different things.
Between the lines, they're saying Belichick had to know about this. And again, given his track record, well, he's the overseer now. I'm sorry. It's what happened to Sean Payton, gone for a year because he oversaw the operation, and also he lied to the commissioner when he was questioned. But he also oversaw the operation that produced Bountygate, whether it came from the defensive coordinator, no matter where it came from, the head coach is held responsible. But I, for one, there's not 1 second that I haven't thought Bill Belichick knew exactly what happened, if not commissioned what happened with these deflated footballs.
There's another point that I think you're missing with this whole $1 million fine and the confiscation of the 1st and 4th round picks. According to a couple of sources with the NFL, you got to remember that the NFL agreed with the Patriots they were going to let this ride and deal with this after the Super Bowl. And that was basically the tacit understanding amongst all parties concerned. What happens? Robert Kraft then shows up Super Bowl week and literally holds a press conference, not only defending Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and standing completely by them, but going as far as to say, I expect an apology from Roger Goodell and the National Football League office. That really rubbed quite a few people the wrong way. And from that point forward, it was on. It was like, okay, now you done crossed the line because you had that press conference. We were going to address this after the Super Bowl, and that's fair enough, but we weren't going to touch it. We were going to leave it alone. We weren't going to address the matter. And here you come, literally calling us out. So don't think for 1 second that didn't factor into the $1 million fine, the confiscation of a 1st and a 4th round pick. Because if I'm Roger Goodell, more so Roger Goodell than obviously Troy Vincent, because Troy Vincent is an employee, and Roger Goodell, even though he's the commissioner under the stewardship of the owners, the bottom line is they've empowered him with what they've empowered him with. So he's different. Roger Goodell didn't sit back and take too kindly to that. There's no question that factored into the judgment that was handed down to the Patriots. It ain't just about Belichick. It ain't just about Brady. It's also about Mr. Kraft. You know how I feel about Mr. Kraft.
I do.
But it's also about Mr. Kraft willing to boldly stand before the masses and demand an apology. Now you done put them on a hot seat.
And by the way, he's still standing by his quarterback in his statement. Okay.
Sure.
And we're about to discuss this.
Yeah. So far, Tom Brady has not apologized. He's essentially not necessarily defending himself. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds. So let's talk about that. If Brady's 4-game suspension is upheld, ironically, he will return Week 6 against the one team where this all began, the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Brady's agent, Don Yee, says they plan to appeal the suspension. They have until 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursday to appeal. Gentlemen, how do you think Brady will respond off the field, meaning to his punishment? Skip?
Stephen A. Smith, once again, I've spoken to 3 people I know who are close to Tom Brady. They are reiterating to me as of yesterday that behind the scenes, he continues to say he is completely innocent as charged and now convicted. That this isn't a case of him behind the scenes saying, and they got me dead to rights, but we're going to try to slip out. No, he's saying, I am innocent, and I'm going to fight this through the appeals process and into court if need be. Now, back to what happened the day after the Wells report broke. You and I went back and forth, and I publicly admitted to you the circumstantial evidence in the Wells report is pretty convincing. And I told you, it pretty much convinced me to the point I thought, okay, 4 games, Tom Brady. But again, Tom Brady is telling his confidants that more probable than not, as a conclusion in the Wells report, is about as weak a guilty conclusion as you could reach. More probable than not, he does not think that will stand up in court. Hence, Mr. Kraft's statement yesterday saying, I give my unconditional support to Tom Brady, and I'm told that Mr. Kraft is now going to throw his considerable weight behind Tom Brady's appeal. First and foremost, they are going to fight for a truly independent arbitrator. Not, Stephen A., you remember Harold Henderson. We brought him up several times on the show. Former NFL executive, current legal counsel to the NFL. He's the guy now overseeing the appeal of Greg Hardy. He oversaw and ruled against Adrian Peterson in his appeal, which then Adrian Peterson, you recall, took to Judge Doty, who overturned that and said, nope, you got to go back to Harold Henderson. He's got to revisit this. And finally, they reinstated Adrian Peterson. It could come to that. It could come to a Judge Doty. It could come to an injunction in court to stop the initial suspension of the first 4 games of this coming football season. But I'm wondering, would they push for, remember, Paul Tagliabue got to oversee Bountygate appeals. Remember what he did? He overturned every one of Goodell's player suspensions. Remember that? Because we went back and forth about Jonathan Vilma had been suspended for the entire football season. Tagliabue, the ex-NFL commissioner, came in and said, no, overturned. He overturned the 3 other player suspensions. It was a big victory for the players against Goodell. So will they push for a Paul Tagliabue? Ultimately, and unfortunately for Tom Brady, the final decision lies, collective bargaining-wise, in the hands of Roger Goodell. So he gets to pick, ultimately, who that arbitrator is. But if they don't like who he picks, trust me, they are dug in and willing legally to fight this to the death. So that's what's going on here.
Well, I hope you make their funeral arrangements. Feel free to do so as quickly as you possibly can, because what you need to take into account, Skip Bayless, is the fact that Roger Goodell is the commissioner, and the powers bestowed upon him were by the very individual, Mr. Robert Kraft, along with his 31 other compatriots that obviously make up the ownership group of the National Football League. Roger Goodell is not exercising powers that he grabbed from the sky. They have empowered him to do this. So when one owner stands up and he has a problem, all of a sudden the other 31 owners are supposed to sit there and capitulate to his wishes and his desires and usurp that of Roger Goodell after they gave him the power. So in other words, I gave you this power to exercise. I've empowered you to do X, Y, and Z, not just against the players, not just against individual team executives, but also us as owners who pay you. Really? You could try all day. The fact of the matter is that you might have a shot at reducing it. If I had to bet Skip Bayless at a reduction, I would say it would happen by one game. So instead of being available October 18th in Week 5 against the Indianapolis Colts to avenge him, since they're the ones that turned him in and they get back at them rather, I'd say they take a one game off of it and possibly reduce it to 3. So his first game back. Let me finish. So his first game back would be October 11th against the Dallas Cowboys. You understand? I'm just saying that's what I think. Yeah. If a reduction would happen at all, and I'm inclined to believe a reduction is not going to take place, nor am I willing to say they deserve it. Keep in mind, Skip, you brought up the New Orleans Saints. Now, Skip Bayless, I am on the record because originally you were the guy that stood steadfast behind this New Orleans Saints. You said it was excessive, Roger Goodell was wrong, etc. I sided with Roger Goodell. Come to find out, their investigation was a bit shady. I sat up there on national television and apologized to the New Orleans Saints, including Jonathan Vilma to his face, including Drew Brees to his face as well. You did. And I appreciate them accepting my apology. But here's the deal, Skip. What's the difference between them and Brady? From day one, they were vehement. From day one, they were battling. From day one, they defended themselves to the core. They let it be known. Tom Brady has leaned on, his daddy, the owner,
you're missing the point.
His agent.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, you're talking about his public reputation, and we're going to deal with that later in the show, and I'm good with it. I get what you're saying. He has done a lot of damage to his reputation and legacy by not speaking out to the public. Privately is a whole nother matter. And if you know Brady, he doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care what I think. He cares what the court might think, or the NFL court here when it involves an arbitrator. So my point to you is that in the end, it doesn't matter what you're saying about what happened with Drew Brees. In the end, more probable than not, will that stand up in court? See, Brady's saying there's no smoking gun. What do you have on me except circumstantial? More probable than not?
Let me ask you a question. Why are you sitting there going, more probable than not, when you yourself read the report, sat back, literally leaned back, and looked in the camera with the saddest face I've seen you have in years?
I'll tell you why.
And said, Stephen, I have to admit to you, he really looks guilty.
I spoke from the heart.
Obviously, there was some substance. There was some substance for the report.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
But I did say it was all circumstantial, but damning circumstantial. But no smoking gun, right? No smoking gun.
Right.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Now I've heard with my own ears from his confidants who are telling me how adamant he is that he was completely wrongly convicted. I'm not saying I don't know. I don't know the evidence. I've heard lots of details. I don't even want to start sharing them because they would boggle your mind if I started getting into the minutia of what he saw versus what the referees saw or the people measuring the football.
That's fair.
Okay?
That's fair.
I'm leaving all that part out, but I heard how adamant confidants are that Tom Brady is saying, I didn't do this and I'm going to fight it. Now, he's not telling you that publicly, and I get it. You would have fought it publicly. I would have fought it publicly.
But that's not just it. Skip Bayless, just a few weeks ago, we were on the air, devastated and saddened over the loss of life and the fact that his teammate, Aaron Hernandez, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, based on circumstantial evidence.
Okay.
People in the legal system go down based on circumstantial evidence all the time. So the fact that you keep bringing up the legalities of it all, I'm saying to you, shoot, circumstantial evidence It happens every day.
Okay.
People go down for that every day.
Okay, but my last question to you is, just one last answer. If this did wind up in court, and you tried to sell to a judge the Wells report conclusion of it's more probable than not that Tom Brady cheated, what would that judge say?
Skip, I'm saying to you, it's possible he'd say, you know what? We're going to rely on the Wells investigation
I don't think he would.
because you guys collectively bargained to empower the commission, collectively bargained with the players, and as owners, you've empowered the commissioner to have this position. He had this individual conduct the investigation. This is what they concluded. This is his judgment. The courts don't want to get involved in this stuff. They're like, there's a collective bargaining agreement for a reason.
Well, Tom Brady is definitely going to fight, and according to his agent, they will appeal. They have until 5 p.m. on Thursday to apply for the appeal. Now, if his 4-game suspension does hold up, that means he's going to miss their regular season opener against the Steelers, then the Bills game, Jags, the bye week, and then the Cowboys. And this is big considering Brady has started every single game for the Patriots since 2009. Welcome back. So as many of you saw, the NFL announced its punishment in response to the Deflategate at 5:30 p.m. Eastern yesterday. Patriots owner Robert Kraft responded in a statement, and here's some of what he had to say. Despite our conviction that there was no tampering with footballs, it was our intention to accept any discipline levied by the league. Today's punishment, however, far exceeded any reasonable expectation. It was based completely on circumstantial rather than hard or conclusive evidence. So joining us at the table right now, NFL analyst Ryan Clark joining us here. I see you smiling, so I'm really curious what your reaction was when you heard of the punishment, Ryan.
I'll be honest, I was shocked. Not Tom Brady's punishment. Yep. Obviously, I tweeted that when the Ted Wells report came out, that it would be 4 games. Sure. That I thought it would be. But the draft picks, first-round draft picks, 2016, 4th-round draft pick in 2017, $1 million fine, heaviest fine ever levied by the NFL, whether it be on a team or a player or a coach. I was shocked. And I wasn't shocked because I don't think they deserve it. I was shocked because the NFL actually did it. And the NFL right now, they were kind of playing on a field that they made. You come down on Ray Rice with the 2 games and you take so much flack because it's not enough. That's true. You come down to Deflategate and players other than New England Patriots fans, New England Patriots themselves and New England Patriots organization were upset that you felt like Spygate wasn't levied enough fines. There wasn't enough suspensions. And so now the league was faced with a sense of, okay, do we come down the way we're supposed to or the way we're expected to come down on the New England Patriots? And they did. You look at this situation in the letter written from Troy Vincent to Tom Brady. Not much of it was about deflated balls. They said he was generally aware. Yep. And they said that it's more likely than not this was not done without your knowledge. But he used words like, no matter how accomplished, you must abide by the rules. You weren't candid in our investigation. When the league is in question, when the public's confidence in the league is in question, everyone is accountable. And so it was more so the way he behaved after deflating the balls that got him in more trouble. And I said this yesterday. It's like talking to my kids. When I talk to my kids, I say, listen, you did something wrong. If you tell me what you did wrong, the fine or the punishment is going to be a lot less if I have to figure it out and I also figure out what you did and the fact that you lied. And that's what happened here. The 2007 Spygate was definitely a part of this decision. But more so, it was the smugness and the arrogance of the New England Patriots that got the organization penalized so heavily.
Okay, quick question before Stephen A. jumps in. I'm going to ask you the same question I just asked him. What if, let's just do the hypothetical, Tom Brady is innocent as charged and convicted? So his defiance was actually an honest reaction of, no, I'm innocent. Is that possible?
No, it's not possible.
All right.
I just don't believe it. I mean, we could say all kind of things are possible. It was possible that Manny Pacquiao was going to beat Floyd. But it wasn't.
He did beat Floyd.
Oh, we only have so much time on the show.
Wait a minute. That means that Tom Brady is innocent.
No, it doesn't.
It
means you're delusional as usual.
The 2 most delusional fans in the world are Pac fans and Pats fans. And I tweeted that. They're both delusional. But you look at this situation, Tom Brady gained a competitive edge. We talk about fumbles since 2006. The New England Patriots are way below the league average and tens and hundreds of amounts below of the lowest team as far as fumbles compared to them. So it's too much evidence that leans toward the fact that they gained a competitive edge by the way they inflate or deflate their balls. But this thing goes more to the integrity of the league. Whenever you go to a competition committee meeting and you're sitting there with Roger Goodell, Troy Vincent, it's always the shield. It's always the integrity of the league. What the New England Patriots did wasn't an off-the-field issue. It wasn't an issue that said you're a bad person. It's an issue that said, as far as the game goes, as far as what we present to the fans, as far as what we do for the world, you have cheated us. You cheated the league, you cheated your peers, and you cheated yourself. And this is your punishment.
Ryan, had they cooperated and had Tom Brady provided those emails and texts, do you think their punishment would have been significantly less?
I do. I think if Tom Brady comes out, if it's AFC Championship week after the week and we're leading up to the Super Bowl in that dead week where, Skip and Stephen A are going at each other and they don't really have much to say, but they're just so good on TV, they make the show good. If he comes out that week and says, you know what? I did it. I didn't necessarily tell the equipment guy, hey, look, put it in these specifications, but I said, this is the way I like my balls to feel. I don't know anything about the specifications. I feel them. This is the way I like to play. If he says that, and I made a mistake. It wasn't right. I made a mistake, but I was part of why these balls weren't inflated to the proper specifications. I think he gets off. And the other thing, it's a $25,000 fine. But we always talk about legacy, and we talk about what's Tom Brady's legacy after this. My feeling was he was worried about his legacy. He was like, if they find out I was cheating, if they find out that I didn't have the balls to the correct specifications, my legacy is tainted. I akin this to, and it's not, and people are going to go crazy because I'm saying Roger Clemens, but Roger Clemens, he's like, you know what? Before I say I took performance enhancement drugs or I took steroids, I'll fight it to the end, so there will always be a question. I feel like Tom Brady's doing the same thing. There'll always be a question. Skip Bayless will be able to get up here and say, hey, what if there's a possibility that he didn't do it?
Go ahead, Stephen A.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing about it is it's important, and Ryan's absolutely right on the money. We got to keep in mind the fact that the Patriots had an opportunity to make McNally available for a second interview. They didn't do that. Tom Brady had an opportunity to display his text messages where Troy Vincent says in his letter that they literally they went through exhaustive measures to protect his privacy. And obviously, they were only concerned about text messages pertaining to the incident in question. He still didn't oblige. So he was uncooperative. And then when you look at his public demeanor, obviously, he came across as very dismissive and arrogant. Some would say relatively timid, trying to couch it for him. But that's how he came across. In the end, all of those things matter because it contributed to the Wells investigation. It was a preponderance of evidence. And basically, the way they termed it in terms of him probably being guilty, Skip Bayless, according to NFL bylaws, that's all they're obligated to do in terms of language and verbiage. According to NFL bylaws, that's as far as they need to go. That is not going to be overturned by the courts. If Tom Brady didn't know this, you best believe the Patriots knew that. Robert Kraft knows that. So for everybody to stand up being so appalled and aghast at what has transpired, they had ample opportunity to do something about this, to somewhat manipulate and soften the outcome. And they failed to do so. This is on them.
Let's go back to Super Bowl week. Bob Kraft and company, they land in Phoenix, and he marches straight to the podium, and he gives a scathing speech in which he says, you, NFL, are going to owe us an apology when you find that we're right about this. We did nothing of this kind. So obviously, Bob Kraft had had an entire week to do his own investigation in-house, and he had concluded that his quarterback is telling the truth, right? Because he continues to say, again, unconditional support of his quarterback. And as I said in our first segment, I'm being told he's going to throw all of his weight behind Tom Brady's, not only his appeal process, but potential lawsuit here, that this could go to court. And Stephen A., real quick, the point I didn't make to you about the appeals process, he doesn't want to get this reduced from 4 to 2 or 4 to 3. They're not talking about reduction. They're talking about dismissing the 4 games. They don't care about the reduction. Okay? No, let me finish. Let me finish. Okay? May
Go
I?
ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the point is that when you're doing an appeals process, usually the guy is saying, you've watched guys go through this, where they say, you know what, you got me, but can you give me a little break here, because I've been a good soldier. I have a pretty spotless track record. Right. So could you give me a little break and a little pass? Sure, just on good behavior. You've been cooperative with us, whatever. Right. We'll reduce it to 2 games. Ain't happening here. He is dug in. This is going to be 4 games, or it's going to be no games. There's none of this reduction.
Now may I speak?
Yeah.
Now may I speak?
Yeah. Thanks for
interrupting.
interrupting.
That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And the reason I was going to interrupt is because why are you sitting there talking like he has a choice? If Roger Goodell sits there and says, we'll reduce it to 3 or we'll reduce it to 2, what is Tom Brady going to say? No, 4 or nothing? He does not have that power. He does not make that call.
Well, let's see
That's
what
why I
happens
was
in a court of
interrupting.
law.
He doesn't make that call.
Okay.
Say what?
In a court of law, I'm telling you, it's laughable that more probable than not will stand up in a court of law. It won't. It just won't.
Also in the report, though, it says substantial and credible evidence.
But show me, where's the smoking gun?
It says substantial and credible evidence.
Where is beyond a reasonable doubt?
Speaking about Robert Kraft and his conviction to get Tom Brady off, doesn't it seem a lot like Aaron Rodgers' conviction that Brian Braun didn't take performance enhancement drugs?
Yes, it does.
Like if you're sitting with your friend and you say, hey, Tom, did you do this? And he says, you know what, Mr. Kraft, I did not do this. Somebody you love, somebody you consider a friend, somebody you've been through so many things with. If he sits in front of you and says, you know what, between me and you, I didn't do it, you're going to go to bat for him. The same way Aaron Rodgers
let's not put Brian Braun in the same sentence with Tom Brady.
Well, wait a minute. We're not talking about, it's not about track record and all that. It's just the same type of situations. And it's a different thing with performance enhancement drugs and Deflategate. I'm not comparing the 2 acts. I'm just comparing the fact that if a friend tells you I didn't do it, you're going to go to bat for them until you know they're wrong.
Stephen A., you have something to say?
I am saying to y'all, this is the point. Exactly what Skip articulated is exactly the problem with all of these folks in Tom Brady's camp. Y'all are acting like he's got power he don't have. He doesn't make that call. If Roger Goodell if Tom Brady appeals and they go to court and they say, okay, we're going to reduce it from 4 to 2, what do you think Tom Brady's going to do? No, I'm not showing up for 4 games unless you tell me there's no games? Of course he's not going to do that. He does not have that power. And part of the problem that I believe got Tom Brady in this trouble is because Tom Brady has walked around with his shoulders looking like he's invincible in all of this. Like somehow, some way, it'll go away. It'll go away. I don't have to answer the questions. I don't have to make the text messages available. We can sit up there. We can do all of it. It'll pass. It'll pass. Don't worry about it, everybody.
Okay, what if he just thinks he's innocent? Is that fair?
Yeah, why did... What you tell me, Skip, how is it that you choose to forget what you said? You were just on the air 2-3 days ago saying,
I did my homework. And I'm not saying he's innocent or guilty because I don't know. He just deserves his day in quote-unquote court, in NFL court and maybe in legal court.
But who's disputing that? Greg Hardy went to court, Skip. Everybody deserved their day in court. Aaron Hernandez was in court. Everybody deserved their day in court.
But again, Adrian Peterson deserved his day in court, and he won in Judge Doty's court, and they threw it right back in Harold Henderson's lap, which brings me to the choice of the arbitrator. Do you remember? I saw a tweet from you this morning that somebody had in a story. This is from back. Remember when Tagliabue was chosen to rule over Bountygate, to arbitrate it? And he looked at what Goodell had concluded, and he said it's all wrong. He went down the line. He said, nope. He wiped out all the suspensions of all 4 players. And you tweeted...
By the time it comes out, though...
Okay,
people still miss games.
Okay, they did. Bill missed some games.
Yeah.
He got docked for the whole year. But my point is, you tweeted, good old Paul Tagliabue, LOL, I love it. That was your tweet.
Yeah.
Because you got a kick out of the fact that the ex-commissioner came in and came down hard on the current commissioner's ruling and wiped it out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're going to fight for a Tagliabue to arbitrate this as opposed to a Harold. Do you know Harold Henderson?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because he's viewed as a company man, as an NFL guy. So they're not going to accept that. They're going to fight the choice of the arbitrator.
Well, I can tell you this. I have a NFL executive committee call at 7 o'clock tonight. And I'm sure this is going to definitely be, something we talk about. And you have to defend him. You know, Tom Brady's going to get his appeal. He's going to get his days in court. You are totally correct.
Doesn't the NFLPA not like Harold Henderson? Now, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean,
they said he's not.
We all know Judge Doty has been the person as the NFLPA we have gone to for many things involved in the league, whether it be CBA negotiations, obviously Adrian Peterson. So these things will be appealed. These things will be fought. Like you said, Robert Kraft is going to put everything behind it. Tom Brady's going to put everything behind it. I still think in the end, when you collectively bargain, that Roger Goodell can still have all this power.
Final say.
Tom Brady's in trouble.
All right, let's leave it at that. Ryan Clark.
Skip, don't forget, y'all, that unlike Bouncygate, in this particular situation, you got a whole bunch of players against the Patriots and against Tom Brady. Let's not forget that.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Talking a little NBA, the Golden State Warriors haven't lost 3 straight all season long, and they made sure that trend continued as they beat the Grizzlies 101-84 last night in a crucial Game 4. Steph Curry went back to looking like the NBA MVP that he is and dropped 33 points, 21 in the first half. The series is now tied at 2 games apiece. So, gentlemen, what was the difference in last night's game? Stephen A?
First things first, the MVP showed up. He was obviously on watch, high alert. Spotlight was on him. They were down 2-1, a 3-1 deficit to the Memphis Grizzlies. The Warriors are going home early. They knew it. The MVP showed up and responded, hit 50% of his shots, did well from three-point range, was dancing on people. They were moving the basketball, spreading the floor. So primarily it was because Steph Curry showed up. And he didn't start out early. He started out, found his rhythm, played within the game, and then let the game come to him. He deserves a lot of credit for that. But the other thing is that Draymond Green had a big-time game. He showed up. Harrison Barnes attempted 14 shots, hit 6, but he was aggressive. Andre Iguodala was productive off the bench as well. And collectively, defensively, the Golden State Warriors gave Memphis some of its own medicine. They got up in them, they got up in their face, and they figured out, and kudos to Steve Kerr, because what happened is they dared Tony Allen to shoot. So essentially on the offensive end of the floor for Memphis, they were playing 4 against 5 because they dared Tony Allen to shoot. He didn't want to shoot. We understood why, because he only shot 2 of 9 from the field. And that enabled them to suffocate the lanes and make things difficult, a bit more difficult for both Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol. And the combination of that really put them in a position to really take control of this series to some degree anyway, or really regain some semblance of control, and that's what they did last night. Defensively and other guys contributing were the key factors, but of course Steph Curry reminded everybody why he's the league MVP.
I'm happy that you chose to give Steve Kerr a little bit of credit for this. Sometimes you've been a little reticent about giving him a whole lot of credit because he obviously got handed a very good basketball team, coached in the past by Mark Jackson. But I thought Steve Kerr deserved credit on 2 levels last night, strategically and psychologically. And to your strategic point, it was a beautiful move. And I'm sure the staff had a lot to do with it also, not just Steve Kerr, but they assigned Bogus, as you call him, or Bogut, to Tony Allen and dared him to shoot, and Bogut just played back in the lane, just basically played zone. He goes 2 for 9 and only got to play 16 minutes because they needed offense. So they got to go with Jeff Green, they got to go with Vince, they got to put somebody in there who can score, and it disrupted Memphis's defense. But on a deeper psychological level, as you well know, Steve Kerr played in a whole lot of high-level playoff games for the Chicago Bulls and the San Antonio Spurs. And I believe that last night he pushed the right psychological buttons to impress upon his team the level of intensity and physicality that was going to be required to win what Steve Kerr called a moment of truth game. And did they ever respond? And Draymond really did respond because, as you said, he looked a little overmatched against Zach Randolph until last night. 16-10 was not overmatched.
Well, it was not overmatched as well, but let me take a moment to address your point about Steve Kerr. I think Steve Kerr has done an outstanding job this year. I do not believe that Mark Jackson deserved to lose his job, but if there was somebody that was going to be his successor, I think by and large, when you talk around the league about people who are cool with Steve Kerr, he's a gentleman. He's an incredibly nice guy. He's very knowledgeable about the game of basketball. He was a former executive with the Phoenix Suns. He's the guy that tried to get Mike D'Antoni to grab somebody to help him on the defensive side of the floor. And Mike D'Antoni refused to listen to him, which is why Mike D'Antoni is probably looking for a job today instead of coaching in the NBA. Steve Kerr knows the game of basketball. He's a champion 5 times over. And I never, ever, ever want to come across as somebody that's impugning his credentials and what he brings to the table. Plus, he's a good man, and I'm happy for him. But I'm never going to apologize for the fact that Mark Jackson didn't deserve to lose his job, just like I'm never going to apologize for the fact that Lionel Hollins didn't deserve to lose his job in Memphis. Because when you look at this Coach Yeager, who's done a really good job with Memphis, what are they doing any differently, Skip? He was supposed to come in there with his analytics crew, and they were supposed to reinvent the wheel and do things differently and run up and down the floor and play a more up-tempo, exciting brand of basketball. Well, what has Memphis do? 3 weeks into his tenure as the head coach, he went right back to the same brand of basketball that Lionel Hollins was coaching. Okay? Get the ball to the big boys. Be in folks' face. Play defense. Play together. He's doing the same things that Lionel Hollins was doing, which means that Lionel Hollins should not have lost his job. So I get the point that these coaches are doing good jobs. I'm happy for them. It's not their fault that they were handed the reins that they were handed. I don't hold it against them one bit. But I am never going to apologize when I see particularly the dwindling number of black coaches in the league. I am never going to apologize when guys who are qualified and who have done good jobs lose their jobs, and I'm not going to be silent about it. I'm never going to apologize for that.
Okay, like it. That's very fair. Bottom line to this discussion, I believe that Golden State just won this series. What do you think?
So do I. But we both picked them to win this series anyway.
The NFL announced its punishment for the Patriots and Tom Brady yesterday in response to the Deflategate. So take a look at what NFL Executive Vice President Troy Vincent had to say. This is part of a letter he sent to the Patriots. While we cannot be certain when the activity began, the evidence suggests that January 18th was not the first and only occasion when this occurred, particularly in light of the evidence referring to deflation of footballs going back to before the beginning of the 2014 season. So according to that, sounds like this is something that has been going on for a very long time. So we would like to welcome in Jared Bell from NFL Insider. So the question we want to pose right now, what does this punishment say about the commissioner, Roger Goodell, Jared?
Well, I think it kind of actually helps him restore some of the credibility that has been lost, tarnished, damaged, if you will, over the past year with some of the other issues. But in another sense, it says a couple things. A, the commissioner's job starts with the integrity of the game. So we can debate whether or not you gave Ray Rice too much or what you did with Greg Hardy, but when it comes to the integrity of the game, that's almost like a layup for Roger Goodell to come down as hard as he sees fit. Because you can't compare this with some of those other types of infractions and violations that you have to rule on. The other statement that this really kind of underscores with Goodell is the fact that he delegated the authority to Troy Vincent to take the lead on this. Think about all of the criticisms of Roger Goodell, and one of them was that he had too much power. It was kind of like my way or the highway. Well, in this particular case, Troy Vincent was able to take the lead. Troy Vincent was promoted like a year ago, and he's allowed Troy Vincent and now backed him to the hilt, really, to kind of move forward on this. So I think that's good. And the last point that's obviously key is that the other owners, not to mention the players and everyone else involved in the league, we're really going to be watching this to see if Roger Goodell could back a severe punishment to one of his key supporters in Robert Kraft, and I think we got the answer there.
And what's interesting about that, this is just coming down, an unnamed NFL owner told Bleacher Report in an interview that he actually supports the decision by Roger Goodell and the league about the punishment. He also believes that the relationship between Goodell and Patriots owner Robert Kraft is, quote, pretty much dead.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing because when you're talking about the commissioner having the respect of everybody involved, I mean, that's a key thing that you're going to have to sometimes slam the people who have been in your corner. And we know Robert Kraft has been a big Roger Goodell supporter, especially last year when the whole Ray Rice fiasco unfolded. So, Roger Goodell is human on top of being that commissioner, but he showed that, sometimes you have to put that aside. And if that ends the relationship, well, that's just kind of the byproduct of being in that chair.
Yeah. Stephen A., fire away.
Well, I think when you talk about Roger Goodell, he does look good with this particular decision because of willingness to come down hard on somebody he was seen, enjoying drinks with or partying with, whatever word or verbiage you'd like to use, and he was considered relatively in the pocket of a Robert Kraft to some degree by some. Obviously, that goes out the window right now. So in that respect, I say Roger Goodell looks good. And Jared makes an obviously salient point when he points out how the integrity of the game is Roger Goodell's top priority as commissioner of the sport. The flip side, however, is that when Roger Goodell made mistakes, was Roger Goodell forthcoming? Was Roger Goodell quick to step up and to say, I made mistakes and I'm going to correct them? Was Roger Goodell interested in exacting punishment upon himself to address his faux pas, whether they be one or many? I don't know if that's the case. And that's one of the things that will rub people the wrong way when it comes to Roger Goodell, because he seems to be somebody that has gotten away with making a lot of mistakes, but is quick to bring the hammer down on those who do. Again, I agree with this decision in light of the report and what Troy Vincent has surmised. I've known Troy Vincent for years. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but covered him when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I remember back then how much of a high integrity guy he was. I trust his judgment. But the flip side to it is that when we're talking about Roger Goodell, Jared, and again, I'm just speaking here. I may not know. So I lean on the expertise of somebody like yourself who's covered the league so greatly over so many years. I would say to you, it comes across as if Roger Goodell is interested in bringing a heavy hand down upon everybody but himself.
No, that's a good point, Stephen A., just in the whole context of this. Now, I do think that when some of the events unfolded last year, Roger did admit some wrongdoing and that he got it wrong. Now, he did not admit it to the point where here, take some of the money back, not to that degree, but did kind of come clean after he was exposed, really. But I think the other thing that is connected here is the fact that the NFL is really going through a transition period when it comes to setting a new standard. So, yeah, of course, new personal conduct policy, delegating some authority. And I think that's kind of one of the things that makes all of this so confusing, because you can look at this case and compare it to, say, Bountygate. Well, Sean Payton was suspended for a whole year, and that investigation did not reveal that he had his hands on the actual bounty ledgers, yet he got suspended. Well, why not Bill Belichick, even though the report says that Belichick knew nothing about it? So there's going to be this type of inconsistency, and I think that's the thing that has always bothered the players' union, for example, and so many other people who try to make sense of some of the rulings that come down in the NFL. But I think in moving forward, they've established a standard, and you've got to kind of give them that.
So I hear where both of you are going, but I disagree with your conclusions. I view this as a rather desperate and self-serving move by this commissioner who has been on the hottest seat in sports over the last year or so. I think that's fair to say. Many were calling for this man's job after the debacle that was Ray Rice. Am I right about that?
You are. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now, all of a sudden, the model franchise reared its head right in the path of Roger Goodell, who needed to restore, as you say, his credibility and his power, his control. And he came down, as you wrote in your column, he lowered the boom, not just on a quarterback, a good guy quarterback with 4 Super Bowl rings, and to date, a spotless reputation in Tom Brady, but a coach many hail as the greatest coach ever in Belichick. I believe with Ryan Clark that he established a culture of cheating in New England, but a lot of people still think he's the greatest coach ever. And obviously an owner that was viewed as buddy-buddy with this commissioner. It was the perfect target at the perfect time for this commissioner to flat out try to level the quarterback and his reputation and the owner and coach future with the franchise, because as you know, a first rounder and then a fourth rounder on top of that, that is severe. That's going to have a long-term damaging impact on this franchise.
And I'm really with you on that, Skip, because I think following the Ray Rice situation, the domestic violence, that was probably the greatest challenge the NFL has ever faced in terms of its public image and brand. So how much do you think, in response to Skip, what he was saying about how Roger Goodell is kind of in some ways flexing his muscle and trying to make up for everything that happened over the past year?
Yeah, desperate is the word to use, right? But it's also a layup for him, because if he doesn't come down hard on the Patriots, and let me just say this, Skip, and Stephen A. and Prim, this penalty was harsher than I suspected it would ever be. Had you told me a week ago that this was going to be the punishment for the Patriots, I would not have believed it. I would have believed maybe half of this, $500,000, 2 games, a fourth-round pick. That I
just the fourth round
was coming. Exactly, and I thought that was going to be hard. So they went far and beyond what I thought could happen. But I disagree with the point that he did this because he was desperate. Because if he doesn't do this, imagine what we'd hear about Roger Goodell in terms of you're protecting Robert Kraft. And the same thing for Troy Vincent. You won't come down hard on a marquee player like a Tom Brady. You let him slide. So they had to make this type of statement, or else all credibility kind of goes out of the
window. You
window.
would have been okay with the other penalty that you said, 2 games and $500,000 and a fourth-round pick. You would have said that's fair.
Right. Yeah, I would have thought that would have been hard, but probably when you look at the context of Roger Goodell himself said it at the Spygate, if we find other violations that come down the line, we are going to take that into consideration. So obviously they took it into consideration. Well, you had to back that up. But the other thing too, remember, 31 other teams. You hear so much about the Patriots in terms of the suspicions, and that's a slippery slope too, because suspicions could be jealousy.
Could be.
When it's not proven. Well, we think they did that. They may have done that. I mean, but you hear it so consistently from people around the league that it just makes you wonder how much is really there. And I think the league has kind of put the law down and say we think there is something there.
You remember this ridiculous one-handed catch, right? After that, everyone knew who Odell Beckham Jr. was and is, and the Giants wide receiver, who is one of 4 semifinalists for the EA Madden Sports cover, will be right here at the First Take Deaths tomorrow, so you don't want to miss that. In the NBA, it is a pivotal Game 5 in Cleveland tonight between the Bulls and the Cavs. Consider this, in NBA history, the Game 5 winner in a best-of-7 series, when it is tied 2-2, has gone on to win the series 82% of the time. The Cavs, well, they're a little dinged up right now. LeBron James received treatment for his ankle injury. Kyrie Irving underwent an MRI on Monday, which revealed tendonitis in his left knee, but he is expected to play tonight. And as for the Bulls, you've got Pau Gasol, who is expected to miss tonight's game. So with all that's going on with the Cavs, the question we ask, how much pressure is on LeBron tonight? Stephen A?
Well, it's immense pressure simply because the chances of the Cavs going into Chicago for Game 6 after winning Game 4 there and winning again are going to be slim if, in the event, the Cleveland Cavaliers lose Game 5 tonight. You certainly don't want to go back to Chicago down 3-2, having to win Game 6 in Chi-Town. I don't think you want to do that fresh off of winning Game 4 in dramatic fashion on Sunday afternoon the way that they did. So because of that alone, LeBron's going to be under immense pressure. But when you take into account the fact there's no Kevin Love, that Kyrie Irving is really suffering with that foot injury, that LeBron James has been struggling in terms of his shooting, only shot 14% from three-point range, 1 of 7 in Game 4, shot 10 of 30 for the game, is shooting horrifically, by the way, and throughout this series. This really isn't putting up big-time numbers statistically in terms of percentages. I definitely think that he's got to get rolling, and it's one of those situations where I don't want to say he has to do it by himself, because JR made some big shots in the fourth quarter, hit 3 3-pointers. Timothy Mozgov can really play. I'm very impressed with this guy. And Tristan Thompson is somebody that Rich Paul, his agent, and LeBron's agent as well, he's going to look to get this kid paid this offseason, because this kid is showing he's got tremendous upside. His offensive game is far from polished, but he rebounds, he defends, he's active, he's got a lot of energy. And he likes to wear the same hats that LeBron James likes to wear, regardless of how much he tries to deny it. But in the end, what it comes down to is that they've got some support, but not having Love and a healthy Kyrie puts immense pressure on LeBron James. He's going to have to figure out a way to get it done. He does not want to go back to Chicago down 3-2 for Game 6. He doesn't want that.
I agree with you. Immense pressure on LeBron tonight. But, Stephen A., I'm not going to hold LeBron as accountable as I often and usually do. The stunning news of the day, other than the Brady Patriots news, to me was that Kyrie needed an MRI for his left knee on top of his right foot injury, which is serious. Well, again, maybe he's favoring the left knee a little bit, and all of a sudden it got a little wobbly. So he's really going to be a potential liability. I don't even know if he's going to be able to play at all, and especially on defense, it's hard to hide him anymore. So, to me, now that the Bulls almost certainly will again be without Gasol, and you remember that Taj Gibson had a knee issue of his own the other day at the end of the game. So, if they're both either out or limited in Taj's case, I'm with you. The guys I'm going to hold most accountable tonight are those two big guys. Mozgov, Tristan Thompson, you guys should control the paint tonight. If it's just the two of you mostly against Noah, control the paint and control the game. And I look for the Cavs to play a little different kind of a game. And again, all I'm asking of LeBron tonight, Stephen A., and you mentioned the numbers. He's had a rough series. But the number that they can't live with is the 6. He's averaging 6 turnovers a game through the first 4. That won't cut it. So if LeBron could have 3 turnovers tonight and give them 3 extra possessions, I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's a dangerous game. And I think that ultimately the Cavs at home should hold serve and get it back to a Game 6 at Chicago. Obviously, that could be a closeout for them. But tonight, with maybe not much Kyrie, if any, that's going to be tough on LeBron James. So I think it's going to be a big boy game tonight, the guys inside.
I agree with you. I don't think there's any question about it, but he's going to have to get it done. And it's looking more and more like my original prognostication coming into this season may end up being true, because with all of these injuries, it's hard to imagine how the Cleveland Cavaliers going but so far in winning the chip this year when bodies are falling right before their very eyes. And by the way, LeBron was nipped up himself. He almost hurt his ankle real bad. So you got Kyrie, the right foot, the left knee. Kevin Love is out. And Iman Shumpert has that groin injury that he's playing through. It just seems like everything is getting in their way right now.
So wait, you're going back to Clippers and Bulls?
No, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to that yet. I'm just simply saying that I didn't pick the Cavaliers to win the chip this year. Remember, it was before they acquired Timothy Mozgov, Amon Shumpert, and J.R. Smith. As constructed at the beginning of the season, I didn't think that with that squad they were going anywhere. Obviously, with the personnel that they have, if everybody were healthy, they could win it all. But with these injuries, I don't know what to make of them because I don't know who can go and for how long.
Yeah, Stephen A., with Kevin Love out, let's say Kyrie Irving is maybe 30 to 40% capable. How far can this Cavs team go if LeBron James is trying to single-handedly carry this team?
I think they could go to the finals because I think they could beat Atlanta or at Washington without John Wall in the next round. And I think they can escape with this series because they won Game 4. So I can see them protecting their home court and pulling it out that way. But I don't see them winning the championship, not with all of these injuries. I can't see that happening.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
throw to the plate, safe at the plate,
right through the World Series.
For the third time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.
Welcome back. So yesterday, the NFL handed down its punishment and suspended Patriots quarterback Tom Brady 4 games for conduct detrimental to the integrity of the NFL just 5 days after the Ted Wells investigation was released. The report said that Brady was at least generally aware of the deflated balls used in last season's AFC Championship game against the Colts. And Brady's agent, Don Yee, says that Brady will appeal, which is no surprise. They have until 5 p.m. Thursday to appeal that. So we'd like to welcome back NFL analyst Ryan Clark here with us. So the question we ask, is Brady's legacy officially tainted? Ryan?
I don't think so.
No?
Really? I just don't. The player is not tainted. Listen, he's always going to be a league MVP. He's going to be a Super Bowl MVP. He's going to be a 4-time Super Bowl winner. And that's not going to change. You know, I don't think players are going to look at it as if those things were never accomplished, or that the only way Tom Brady accomplishes these things is because he played with balls that were deflated below the specifications. What took a hit, though, to me, was his image. The Joe Montana fan who loved football, who ran the ugliest 40 in combine history, who looked terrible when they asked him to take his shirt off for the picture, who comes in, replaces Drew Bledsoe, takes New England to the Super Bowl, wins multiple Super Bowls, marries Giselle. That guy took a hit. The golden boy of the league took a hit, because now you're not the person that everyone thought you were. You were dishonest. And so I don't think for players, it's not about the fact that you deflated balls. Players still think he's a great player. And when you look at the culture of the New England Patriots, we all thought they cheated anyway. You know, and
I would think you'd hold that against him.
You know, like I just don't think this is a revelation that's changed the way we look at Tom Brady or the New England Patriots. We always, at least speaking for me, I always felt like they stretched the rules. Sure. You know, and so
that doesn't bother you at all, though?
I think it's one of those things, you get used to it.
Really?
You know you're playing with the cards stacked against you. When you go into games against the New England Patriots, you never think it's above the line at any point. And so for Tom Brady, for this to finally be out, okay, Tom Brady likes his balls at a certain specifications. The reason why it's only a $25,000 fine for doing it is because it's really not that big of a deal when it comes to losing and winning games. Now, their fumbles makes you say, okay, maybe they gained a competitive advantage there. But you listen to Aaron Rodgers say, you know what, I like my balls a little more plump, a little heavier than what the specifications are. He's admitted to that. Even Jerry Rice, you listen to him say, yeah, you know, I use Stickum. Does that not make does that take away that Jerry Rice is the most accomplished wide receiver of our time? No, it doesn't. And players still see him that way. So in this situation, it's not the fact that Tom Brady cheated. It's the fact that once caught, he decided to be dishonest. He decided to not cooperate. He decided that his legacy and who Tom Brady was more important to him than the integrity of the game. So I feel like players and people lose respect for him that way, but you can't take away the rings. Unless they say, you know what, the only reason you won these rings is because you cheated and we want the Super Bowl championships back. I think that changes things. But until then, he's still Tom Brady.
Stephen A., hang on 1 second. So let me get this straight. It sounds like you're saying that deep in your subconscious, a long time ago, you decided that Tom Brady's quarterback reputation was tainted. Like you accepted that they cheat and he cheats. Yeah. And now you just that's a given for you.
You just go play.
Okay? But still, I still think deep down you still view him as a tainted football player because he's had a little bit of unfair advantage all along, in your view, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. This situation doesn't change how I look at it.
All right.
You know, like, that's the difference. Like, this one thing is not like, oh, my goodness, the Patriots cheat. You knew that all along.
Yeah.
Like, for those who thought Spygate was real, we felt like, yeah, Tom Brady, you're a part of that. You benefited from that. These 3 Super Bowls you won during this time were because you guys were cheating. And so now this is not like, oh, my goodness, Tom Brady hasn't done things the right way. I still don't think this changes as much as people think.
Stephen A.
Well, Ryan, I respectfully disagree with you in this respect. You're distinguishing a difference between legacy and image. The fact is that it all comes together in the minds of the public. At the end of the day, your image is a part of your legacy. It's intertwined. You don't have to take away from the greatness of Tom Brady. You can still acknowledge, we all know he's great. He's a 4-time Super Bowl champion. Those footballs certainly were not deflated when he went up against the Legion of Boom in the Super Bowl. He won that game. We get all of that. But in the end, when you are associated with cheating as an individual, it resonates profoundly. Think about what started the Brady era, y'all. What started the Brady era was the tuck. The tuck, what is now known as the tuck rule.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a fumble. You know, you got away with that. Even though people are a bit perturbed over that, that was officials. That was a league. That's something that comes with the game, as frustrating as it may be. It's not Tom Brady's fault. You can't pin that on him. So the crime for him in the eyes of naysayers and haters was that he was lucky there because it should have been a fumble. This is different. You are able, if you are guys that are naysayers of Tom Brady, you gladly point to lies, deception, and then you couple that with gaining an unfair competitive edge on purpose. That's a part of your legacy. That image is a part of it. You don't get to separate that. And that's the problem that he has here. If he had handled it the way Ryan said he should have handled it, which I totally agree. Look, I like the balls deflated. I didn't know they were going that low, but I told him to deflate the ball because that's how I like to throw the football. Then we're able to dismiss that. But the fact that they're able, in their eyes, to associate the words liar and cheater with Tom Brady, he had better get that eradicated from the NFL's vernacular as it pertains to this issue, because if he doesn't, it will stay with him for the rest of his life.
Skip, his legacy tainted?
Yeah. Stephen A., I agree with your take on this one, but allow me to say, to your original point, I'm a Brady supporter on this show. I still believe in him as a football player. He is still, to me, even to this moment, the best quarterback in pro football. And what he did with properly inflated footballs in the Super Bowl against what I considered an all-time great defense, especially in the secondary, even though they were a little banged up that day, but especially in the fourth quarter, that was some special stuff that you saw from Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not taking any of that away, but to Stephen A's point, the image, I think, is permanently tarnished, permanently, inexorably tarnished. Even if he wins an appeal, even if he goes to court to clear his name, because of Stephen A's original point, with which I vehemently agreed, was that, look, image is everything. Image is made on television. What you present on TV is what everybody is going to absorb and believe. And what Tom Brady has not said on television has damned him publicly, image-wise. Outside of Patriot Nation, the world is now convinced Tom Brady is a cheater. Cheater. Period. End of conversation. No matter what happens from this point on, because Tom Brady has not defended himself publicly.
Does this keep him out of the Hall of Fame, Skip?
Okay, we talked about this the other day. I just know some of those long-time, old-time voters, it might keep him out for the first revolution, the first vote. Just, again, if the penalty stands as called right now, 4 games, let's say he tries to appeal and they say, nope, we got you dead to rights, and they prove it through the appeal, whatever, 4 games stand, I say that it will be viewed as a PED-like offense. And as a first ballot Hall of Famer, there might be some old-timers on that committee who say, you know what? To defend the integrity of the league, we need to also mete out our punishment here, which is, nope, you can't go in on the first round, the first ballot.
So what is their legacy now? Yesterday, the Patriots were docked 2 draft picks, a 2016 first-round pick and a 2017 fourth-round pick. This is the second instance that the Patriots organization has been docked a first-round pick. The other instance occurred back in 2008 in response to the Spygate. Now, in terms of the Deflategate, no wrongdoing was found on the part of Coach Bill Belichick or his coaching staff. But the NFL imposed penalties on the team itself, saying, quote, it remains a fundamental principle that the club is responsible for the actions of club employees. So joining us back here at the desk is NFL analyst Ryan Clark. We talked about what is Tom Brady's legacy now. So now the question that we ask, how do you feel about Bill Belichick's legacy?
Good question.
That is a good question.
It's the same as it's always been. Bill Belichick is a push the boundaries, push the rules, do whatever it takes to win. And I think this whole thing goes to the culture of the New England Patriots. Skip said it yesterday. We were talking about not even the equipment manager, the head equipment manager, knowing that this was taking place. Here's the reason why he didn't know. If you're in a company and you're in a business and they conduct themselves a certain way, like let's take Chick-fil-A for instance. I know you're an in shape guy. Body's your temple.
He's never
you don't
eaten
eat Chick-fil-A. Stephen A. may eat there every once in a while. When you go to Chick-fil-A,
once a week.
Once a week?
Now tell me this, Stephen A.
You're admitting that on national TV?
Hey, listen, Chick-fil-A nuggets, okay, with honey mustard. I'm not apologizing. I'm not apologizing.
The fries are good.
It's soaked in vegetable oil.
So that's why they you're off the hook. That's what makes you healthy. But like you think about it, every time you go to Chick-fil-A, it is the best fast food service in the world. They always say it has been a pleasure to serve you. The reason being, they set that type of culture to work there. You know, in order to work there, you're held to a certain standard. When you're in a culture that cheating is no problem, you can do those things. If you're an equipment manager and you know, hey guys, if these balls are found to not be in specifications, we're in trouble, because in our organization, we don't cheat. We don't push the boundaries. We make sure that all the rules are abided by in this organization, in this building. We need to make sure these balls are right. That's not what they do. They know they can push everything as far as you want to push it in order to win games. So as long as nobody's telling us about these balls, we're going to make sure Tom's happy. We're going to make sure these balls are right where Tom wants them, because that's the way we win football games. Because it's the culture that Bill Belichick has set.
How can you respect that?
I never said I respected it. I don't respect it, but I get it. I understand it, and I know you just have to beat them on the field. It's not a situation of being like, you know what? I really look at everything the Patriots did, and they earned it all. I don't say that. But you can't take it away.
So you don't think Tom Brady's legacy is tainted, but with the Patriots, you're okay
the Patriots organization, yeah, you know they cheat.
Wow.
Like, you just know it. And that was the same point about me saying, no, I don't feel like Brady's legacy took a hit because of this, because it is something amongst players we've always felt. It's a culture of cheating, and that's why an equipment manager can say, you know what, I don't really care if these balls are by the specifications. They're going to be cool as long as we win.
Let's go to Stephen A. Smith. What is that look on your face for, Stephen A?
You know, first take, you know, we really, you got to just say what it is, guys. And you got to take into account the culture. You have to take into account context. And what I mean by that, Skip Bayless, Ryan Clark, let's just hypothetically talk about the NCAA for a quick second from the perspective of players being paid to come play at certain programs, et cetera, et cetera. If one guy is doing it, we have a problem. If that's the culture universally, but then one or two guys are getting caught, well, then you have a different set of problems. Because the game that's established within the game is what folks are asking that the masses take into consideration as we determine who's a villain, who's a victim, etc. I'm looking at a Bill Belichick, and I'm saying, let's just say for the sake of argument that Ryan Clark is absolutely correct, and he played in the NFL, neither Skip nor I didn't, so he's the expert on this particular subject. Before I can answer this question about Bill Belichick, I'm compelled to ask Ryan Clark this question. Are the Patriots the only organization in the NFL y'all felt that way about?
Yes.
Are there not other coaches and other franchises that people think skirt the lines or really go to that third rail or really take those chances? Is this just isolated for the Patriots, or is that something that is, dare I say, relatively pervasive in the National Football League?
I can be completely honest with you. Conversations had about the Patriots and skirting rules, I've never had about any of the other 31 teams, ever.
Okay, that's fine. So with you saying that, then I totally get where you're coming from, and I totally respect it. My problem is, Ryan, when I talk to other NFL players, they swear that there are other people who try to do things, they're just not as good as Belichick. So what am I to say to Belichick if it's widely understood that everybody's trying to do something to gain a competitive edge? Skip, you were here when Coach Herm Edwards alluded to such things. He talked about how in the NFL everybody's pushing the envelope, everybody's trying to, gain their competitive edge or whatever the case may be, and who knows what they're doing. All I'm saying is, if we're sitting on the outside looking in, and this is all about Belichick, that's fine. But if you've got NFL folks who are saying to us, there are many wannabe Belichicks, they're just not as good, then I can't knock Belichick but so much, because I'm like, you're just better at it than they are.
But here's my question.
And that's the game that's being played.
Okay, so if you're saying he's not as good because Belichick does it and wins Super Bowls, right? That's why you're saying that.
Actually, I'm saying wins games because he hasn't won a Super Bowl in 10 years until just now.
Well, I think the other part is that obviously he's not as good because he's the only person continuously getting caught.
I agree with that.
So, well, how's he getting caught? He wasn't implicated in Deflategate. It was only Spygate.
Only Spygate? Like, Spygate to NFL players is not an only. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not a big deal. I'm just talking about in quantity. Spygate is one incident. One.
So let's go
the man has been coaching.
Time out. Stephen A., we're running out of time.
Go ahead.
I remain a Brady fan. I have never been a big Belichick fan, and I've said that to you repeatedly on this show because of what this man has said. I have covered this league since back into the 70s. I have never, ever run across an organization as roundly accused of cheating as this one has. Even back to Al Davis's days with the silver and black Renegade Raiders, they still played the game the right way. They didn't cheat during the games. They had the stick'em issues, but they never bent and broke rules like this. So do I respect his strategic brilliance, his teaching. Yes, I do. But if you're that great, why do you have to keep reaching for these things? Yeah. So in the end, this reputation is permanently tainted for a long. It's been for years. Eric Mangini worked for Bill Belichick and said, please don't tape my defensive signals the way you do everybody else. Remember? Yep. And Bill did it, and Eric's like, come on, Bill, you're getting, so he turned him in. And then what about the Rams? What about the Panthers accusing him of videotaping the walkthroughs before Super Bowl?
The discussion got so heated that NFL analyst Ryan Clark decided to stay. Continuing our discussion on the Deflategate, we were talking about Bill Belichick's legacy, and Stephen A. Smith was about to jump out of the screen because he had something to say.
I don't even remember my point, to be quite honest with you. I'm serious. I don't remember my point. All I'm going to say to you is that in the end, what it comes down to is that Bill Belichick, Ryan Clark, you just a few days ago, I think it was yesterday, you just finished saying, according to the Wells report, you don't believe that Bill Belichick should have been suspended.
I still agree with that.
If you don't believe that he should have been suspended, why should this be attached to Bill Belichick's legacy?
We're talking about his legacy overall. I'm not saying that this tarnished his legacy any more than it was already tarnished, but it's a culture of cheating that he has festered. And I said that on the show yesterday. It's a history of cheating through the organization. I'm not saying Bill Belichick walked into the locker room and said, hey, guys, listen, I want these balls.
I agree with that. I get that.
Yeah, what I'm saying
I get that. What I'm saying to you is the one point is Spygate, right? Spygate is the one issue, right?
Yes.
So all I'm saying is, based in terms of judgment, that's all we have on Bill Belichick. Is that not correct?
It is. Judgment and rules, that is, no question. But
all right.
Go ahead, Skip.
So my conclusion here, Stephen A. Smith, is that because of the culture of cheating established and operated over years by Bill Belichick, I believe that Belichick encouraged the equipment men to make Tom Brady happy because he made it clear from the start he likes a little softer football to throw. So I believe Belichick presided over this, which is why I think they docked him a first-round draft choice, because this was another Spygate to them, to both Troy Vincent and Goodell.
I mean, how can Belichick not know? As a head coach, I assume that, he knows everything that's going on. And Belichick is too particular and detail-oriented and successful to not know every single thing that's going on within his franchise.
You got it right, and they didn't.
4 Super Bowl rings.
Way to go. You finally put them both in their place.
That's what I came here to do.
It took 2 hours, but you did it.
Oh, man.
In the end, that's the thing. In the end, it's your team. You run it. And if you set a culture of cheating, if you set a culture of bending the rules, then people under you will do those things. If you set a win-at-all-cost culture, that's what people will do.
Okay, last quick thought. On appeal, what happens for Tom Brady?
About 20 seconds.
I think at best he gets 2 games. It won't be 0.
Okay.
I agree with you on that. All right, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Ryan Clark, thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm Prim Soripapat. Carriage Champion will be back in the chair. Tomorrow, Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., the one-handed catch. Remember him? He'll be right here tomorrow.